Hi Stacey.
Hi Meg.
Can you just introduce yourself with telling us who you are and what you do creatively?
Sure. My name is Stacey McCall. I'm a full-time painter. I work from a tiny little studio in my backyard, and I've been painting full-time for nearly 10 years, I think. Yeah, I sort of got right back into it when my youngest started school. I was doing a little bit of doula work at that time, but now I'm painting full-time. Yeah.
Were you painting before you had kids, or?
No, so I studied gold and silversmithing at RMIT, and because I didn't get into painting, but my sub-major was painting, and I had the most brilliant teacher in third year, Lewis Miller, who I still see around the traps sometimes, and he just really encouraged me with painting, and I think I always preferred painting than making jewellery. And then when the girls came along, by the time number 5 was here, there was no way I was going to be making jewellery, even by number 3. You know, just the blowtorch and the fumes, and so yeah, I was doing a bit of drawing, but when the girls were small, I wasn't doing a lot of art, I have to say. Knitting at the park with my Kensington friends, like you.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then I did have a time where I thought I wish I'd been a midwife, so I went and studied to be a doula. But at the same time, I think I started painting, and I went back and did some classes just to sort of refresh my memory about oil paint, and yeah, just kind of went from there. You know, I was back doing it. I read this amazing book actually called The Divided Heart by Rachel Power. You'd love that.
Yeah.
Do you know that book?
Yeah.
And it just turned my world around. I thought, it's time. I can do both. I think when the girls were little, I didn't want to start resenting the time that they needed from me. But yeah, so then I just started painting, and pretty quickly I was going out to the Yu-Yangs. I made a thing on Fridays because all the girls were in school. Suddenly I had this freedom that I could just get in the car on my own, and I would go to the Yu-Yangs every Friday. So I was doing landscape painting.
Oil or
in
watercolor?
Acrylic, but then I did the classes at Fitzroy Studios, and I think it's actually called Fitzroy Painting, and that made me help me with the oil, getting back into the oil painting. But also at that studio you were doing still life in the classes, and I kind of realized that I'd spent the last however many years at home with my kids, and it was my home that was probably a more meaningful subject matter for me. Just those things that sit around your house, that I've used over and over again as a mum with small kids at home. And so I think, yeah, that just felt like a more, I don't know, authentic muse, I suppose, for my work. So that's when I went down this still life path. Yeah.
And you stopped going out to the Yu-Yangs then, or?
I still go out there with a friend occasionally, because I still do love landscape painting. I think probably for my show at the end of this year at Boom Gallery, I will do some landscapes. But yeah, so I approached Boom Gallery in Geelong pretty early on after I started painting again, and they offered me a group show, and they've been amazing. Like, yeah, I think I've probably had maybe 7 solo shows with them now. So I'm so grateful to them. And it was just that thing of sending an email and saying, would you consider me?
With a portfolio, or?
I sent them images of my landscape paintings and of some of the still life I'd been doing, and then I had a meeting with them, and I took all my sketchbooks, and I just put it all out there, and they're just the loveliest people. And now, like, I drop in there if I'm driving through Geelong. Yeah, they're just the most supportive, encouraging gallery.
Did you already know about them? Is that why you approached them?
Yeah, I'd been following them, I guess, on Instagram. Another painter that I love and I'm very good friends with now, Elizabeth Barnett, was showing with them. So I was kind of just thinking, well, maybe that's a good place to approach.
Elizabeth is the one that you do the letter writing.
We've started a blog together called The Bridge Letters.
Yeah, we'll put a link to that in the notes.
Oh yeah, it's been lovely.
I think so many other creators are going to love reading those as well.
Thanks, Meg. Yeah, we've had some really lovely responses to it. I think it is very relatable. So yeah, I was in a couple of group shows at Boom, and then a woman named Amber Creswell Bell contacted me on Instagram. She was a curator with Reid Galleries, and she put me in, or invited me to be in a group show. And then about a year later, she included me in her still life book. So I'm forever grateful to Amber.
Is that this book here?
Yes. Yeah, so
we'll put a link to that still life book as well.
So I do feel very lucky. I just had some real luck, I think.
I want to talk to you, find out a bit about your routine, because I've watched you through all of this. I've known you since, I don't know, our kids were little.
Our kids were babies, yeah.
When it was, I think the twins and John were babies.
I remember the moment I met you. I was having a coffee up the street, and
that's right.
Someone introduced me to because I think I had the 3 little girls, and here's Meg with the 3 little boys. Yeah.
And so I've watched you through the very busy years of kids at school, and I'm interested in what your routine for your creative work is now, and how you've adapted that over the years.
Well, I get up early because I wake up and I look forward to getting up and coming out and paint. Whereas I think when the girls were little, it was a bit more of a, I gotta get up. But now I start early, and I do try and treat it like a full-time job. And I work pretty hard, I think. I try and do a class with somebody else each year to improve my skills. COVID time was a great opportunity to do classes online. I think I just have found my thing. And also I think as my girls grow up and slowly move out of home, having my art practice is so important to me. I think there's a beautiful book actually called The Day Book by Anne Truitt, and how she talks about how the mother mothers her children and nurtures her home, but also mothers the artist in her. And that just really resonated at a time where I'm sort of struggling a bit with the girls growing up and moving out, but when I come out here, I don't really think about them. Think about them.
I love that so much because it really resonates with me, and I love that book too. Just that being able to lose yourself into your creativity at a time where your kids don't need you as much, or in a different way.
That's right. Yes, sometimes I think, I miss those days where I sort of knew what I had to do. A load of washing, the shopping, take the kids to the park. Like, it was very mapped out, whereas I come out here, most times that I walk in here, I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. I think I think it was something maybe Helen said, was no matter how much success you might have had, it never seems to compound into confidence when you've got, a new book or a new body of work. I always just feel as lacking in confidence.
Because she talked about that fear of the new thing and how to approach it. Do you leave yourself kind of, talk to writers about this, about like a love note for yourself for the next day?
No, that's a very good idea. I'm going to start doing that. I did think leaving a painting at a point where you know what you're doing the next day is a good idea.
Yeah, so people sometimes call that the Hemingway method for writing, where you leave it kind of unfinished, so all you have to do is come in and finish that thing.
Yeah.
And you've got yourself going.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I have little rituals that get me into it. So I'll put my oil burner on. I'll make some white paint with chalk. It's just, part of my process. And just making that gets me kind of into a bit of a flow. And then I might just sit down to a bit of knitting and have a stare at like what's going on in my studio.
When you've made that white paint, are you using it, or is it just part of the ritual to do the making? It's
used because the chalk gives the white paint a transparency. So it's just something I learnt in one of those classes that I did during COVID, actually. So just sort of making that and having it there so that I don't have to stop painting to make it. So it's just Gilda's whiting, actually, is what it's called. I can see the packet there. But yeah, just little rituals like that. But yeah, I'm always sitting out here knitting as well.
Yeah, but that's part of the creative process as well.
Well, I think it is. It's thinking time, where you're sort of thinking about the knitting, but the painting's in the background. And I don't know how the brain works, but like a solution will come to me about the painting when I'm actually thinking about the knitting.
Yeah. Speaking of process, what you're talking about is something that they have done research on it to say it's almost like the Pomodoro technique, where taking a break actually allows that other creative work to continue. So you're taking a break from the painting, and while you're doing something else, it just enables everything to kind of tick over, and so when you come back into it, you know what the next thing is.
Yep, I really think that is a thing for me.
Yeah.
Napping in the afternoon for 10 minutes also, I think, as I'm going into to sleep, ideas come. It is almost just turning off that, turning something off and for something else to sort of appear. Yeah. So
speaking of process, when you step us through a little bit. Do you have a process that you follow other than that routine of like getting yourself into the headspace for new ideas, for painting end to end?
Yeah. Well, the blog that I'm writing with Lizzie is called The Bridge Letters, because we both agree that there's always a painting in a body of work that is like the bridge to the next body of work, and whether you hang on to that piece or not. So that does usually is how I will go into the next series, is from one painting in my previous series that I was sort of happy with. There are elements about it that I think, I want to push that a bit further. When I started still life painting, I would set up a still life with the lighting and paint directly from the objects. So I was going for a more realistic interpretation. Then I started using sketchbooks, so drawing the composition first, and I'm really attracted to more abstract gestural art, I think, more and more. And so my sketchbooks are very loose and more of an impression of an object. And so now my process is I paint from the drawing. I mean, the objects are there, the lighting is set up, but often it's just a direct interpretation of that drawing. So I'm trying to get the feel of watercolor, or my painting's becoming something more between drawing and painting.
And is that to keep that looseness?
Yeah. I was lucky enough to go to Paris last year for...
I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah, it wasn't a residency. It was a friend and I, another painter, Sue Tessario. We thought about applying for residencies, but we didn't really want to commit to the time, and also they're not easy to get into. So we travelled to Paris and booked an Airbnb for 4 weeks, and we just painted and walked and saw all the galleries. And seeing all that incredible art, I did realise I was attracted to, like, Matisse. Oh my God, I love him. You know, just there's a naivety, but just an absolute beauty about his work. Probably my favourite painter, though, is Ben Nicholson, who's an English painter from last century. And again, it's just that impression of things, that it's very emotional. So I probably became less and less interested in realism. Yeah.
I want to know more about this little residency. Let's call it a DIY residency.
It's a DIY.
I want to start with why it was important to go to another country, be in another city, to be able to do that.
I love listening to podcasts.
Yeah.
I think talking with painters is one of my favourites. And so many artists have been to Paris. And I just thought, I have to go to Paris. I mean, I've been when I was 12 with my parents. But I don't know, there was something very validating about going to Paris. And yeah, it just gets into your heart, I think. We just had the best time. So we would get up early. We bought yearly passes for all the big galleries, because then we could just go back and forth. So we'd spend the mornings looking at incredible art, and then we'd go back to our Airbnb in Montmartre, and we would set up a still life, and we would just paint until the evening. Or until, what do we call it? Spritz and fritz, until it was wine time. Yeah. But I just came back so inspired. And then my next exhibition was at Boom Gallery, and it was called Homesickness, which to me is like a lovely feeling when you're away. It's just that something will just catch you and you'll think of something of home. It's not a sadness. So again, it was a body of work, still life, but very much influenced by Paris. And then I had another exhibition with Michael Reid, and it was called Lucent, which again was from my Paris sketchbooks, thinking about that beautiful Parisian light. So I had a lot of work came out when I got back from Paris.
What do you think going away and blocking off that time just for your creativity, what do you think that gave you that you can't get in just the normal, I'm just going to pop into my studio each day?
All you're thinking about is yourself. You know, we'd wash our clothes and do a shop, but it was just all about art and talking about art with each other. There was just nothing else, to sort of get in the way. It was just a complete immersion. Yeah, it was incredible. And it was funny, like I came back, I thought, well, that's that, you know, it was great, moving on, but yeah, Paris is always there in my work now, I think, to a degree,
And is it something that you think you would do again as another way to fill your cup?
I don't know. I mean, Sue and I have talked about doing a residency down the track. I don't know. I just think, was that a one-off experience? Maybe it was. I'd like to do a residency in regional Australia somewhere.
Yeah.
I've never painted in the Kimberleys, or I'd love to maybe do a residency up at the Tweed Regional Gallery. You can sort of hire or book accommodation there. But yeah, I don't know. I'm still feeling just so grateful that I had that opportunity. But yeah, having said that, I am going away again in a month to spend some time in London, actually, because I think probably my biggest passion is British modernist painting.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to do a deep dive into that, and I have an exhibition in Berlin, actually, so I'm going to visit that when I'm there. Yeah,
fabulous. And how did you get into an exhibition in Berlin?
Well, I've been showing with Michael Reid since Amber found me on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually went up and asked if there were other opportunities for me. I've been showing at the regional gallery in Murrurundi for probably 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to the director, you know, my children have moved out of home and I'm just clinging to my art practice. And he offered me a show in Berlin. So I'm so grateful for this. Like,
and you're going to make some time while you're away to do some art?
Yeah, so I'll probably do very much what Sue and I did. Just go out to the galleries, draw, take heaps of photos, and then spend the afternoons painting and thinking about my next show, which will be in September.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Excellent. Who, what, or where do you get your inspiration from?
That's a hard question. I've got a lot of... I think if I'm lacking inspiration, I will sit down with my art books. I've got a really pretty substantial library.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Instagram scrolling isn't the best thing to do, but sometimes things pop up that just... I just think, wow, that is really amazing. It might be like a painting from a painter that's no longer alive that I've never heard of, and there'll be a video. I love watching YouTube videos of painters of my generation or older, particularly women. I'm obsessed with Rose Wiley. She's, I think, 91. She's just had a huge exhibition at the Royal Academy in London. I just find her so inspiring, and if I am feeling a bit lacking in inspiration, I'll sit down and watch a video of Rose just in her studio. Yeah.
And she's still painting?
She's still painting. In fact, her exhibition is still on in London, but I'm sadly it's going to be down before I get there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you've got to check her out. She's just amazing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then, I don't know, just like shapes and things can inspire me. I don't know. I just never know where it's going to come from. Just try and keep eyes open.
Yeah, I mean, your studio has some lovely bits all around it. That,
it's very much my space.
Yeah. It feels like a lovely creative nest.
Yeah, it is a little nest, and it is tiny, and sometimes I think, is it a bit weird? I spend my days out here on my own, but we have a busy family life, and
and
going on
you
up
don't
there.
need a big space. I think it's always a good reminder that we don't have to have a big space to be creative.
No, that's true.
Yeah. If you were to pass on some wisdom about creativity to someone who is maybe at a transition stage or just getting into it, or having that kind of really wobbly moment of, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
What would you want to share with them?
Get a sketchbook. Always carry a sketchbook. Don't feel self-conscious in the sketchbook. Just use it as a place to write and draw and record. And I think for me, if I'm feeling a bit just lacking a bit of confidence with the painting, I always just go back to my sketchbook, and that's where all my work starts. I'm teaching some classes soon based on how to use your sketchbook to inform your art practice. And if anyone says to me, oh, I'd love to start painting or get into art, I just go and get a sketchbook, a good quality one, you know, not super expensive, but I think your materials are important. You deserve, you know, good quality pencils or a little watercolour pad or whatever. And those things are just so precious to me. You know, I've always got my bits and pieces with me. Yeah.
What is home to you and your creative work?
Well, I suppose if you asked me this 10 years ago, I would say this home, because it's been my muse for so long. It's not, there's not people in my paintings, but it's the objects in this home. But now I think, you know, the girls are moving out and we're thinking about our next home. I think home is where, my family gathers, where my knitting sits in the corner somewhere, where my things are, and wherever I paint, that would be home. But family for sure.
Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, Meg, it's funny because I love podcasts so much, and I just never imagined I would be interviewed on one. So I'm so grateful.
I'm so grateful.
Yeah,
you were.
And for our long friendship too.
For our long friendship.